Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. Today, I want to talk about how to successfully adjust your business during disruptions and crisis. And this is something we're going to touch on in a number of additional podcasts that I'm doing. But today, I want to concentrate on the one that we're in right now, which is COVID-19. When COVID-19 was recognized and where I live, probably where you live too, there was a full shutdown with the state ordering to stay at home. Only essential businesses were allowed to be open, such as grocery stores and pharmacies. It was a bit of a shock to businesses that relied on face-to-face selling, face-to-face meetings, and to businesses who were online, had websites, did probably some selling online, but now they had to take that and pivot it to be their focus. And so that was a shock to be able to put that up and running quickly, efficiently, and professionally. So you might have been wondering then, and you might even be wondering now, what's next? And what do I do to keep my business? And how do I adjust to what might be considered the new normal? What I've noticed is that in the beginning of the pandemic, and probably even now, people or companies were using time. They were as busy as possible. Some I know were cleaning closets if they were at home, or they were working on their, computer cleaning it up, but they were keeping very busy in order to feel like they were productive and then just waiting until this goes away. Some might call that wishful thinking, and others might call that positive thinking. The reality, like the science, is that we're experiencing a global pandemic, and we're being forced to create, or at least consider, new paths. We need to be more flexible with our navigating of how we do things. And this applies both to our business and personal lives. To some, this might even, and more positively, be considered a time to be really creative in marketing approaches. You're trying something new and trying different approaches. In 2008, I had a disruption. Now, nothing like what we have today in this COVID-19, but it was a disruption. And I, at that point, made the choice to quit my full-time job as a VP and secured a job myself with my own consulting company. I wanted to really have my own path. I wanted to build a legacy of helping companies to be healthy and strong. And I didn't just want to focus on the bottom line, although that's very important. The revenue, if you don't have revenue coming in or profitable, you're not a business. But by creating systems and processes and providing ways for a business to be healthy and strong with good working cultures, empathetic leaders, and systems that save time and money, I really wanted to make a difference to the clients that I served. Since then, I've worked hard to make my clients thrive. Through my work and experience, I found that finding a strong community support is really important, and I'm seeing that playing out a lot in the COVID-19, that strong community support and those healthy environments. Having true collaboration is another key factor, and not only between employees, but the community as a whole, and also working together. So COVID-19 comes with its own set of challenges, but generally, I think we'll come out of this with everybody and companies being even stronger. Of course, all that's just words until steps are put in place to make your company stronger and inspired. And while words do matter, they definitely do, actions put in place and acted upon make things happen. So, for example, I'm sure you've seen this. I've seen it many, many times. I've heard it many, many times when a company will say, we have excellent customer service. But then you try to use their customer service and they don't return email contacts. Phone calls they're left unanswered. They large companies particularly will route your call through a robot type of approach where you're just pressing 1, 2, and 3, and you're really probably never getting to your specific needs. So that's one that's kind of a throwaway. Instead, it has to be followed up with action. So what I want to talk about today is some of the steps to help, and I have 8 of them today, listed to help get through this major disruption. The first step is, and it might seem a little counterintuitive, but it's planning self-care time. So while some might consider that a little odd, self-care should be a very basic foundation for leaders, for family members, for executives, for entrepreneurs. If we as leaders are healthy and we're protecting our immune system and we're using healthy practices, we stay stronger for those people that depend on us, whether that's a family or friends or employees. So let's start now by recognizing that the first step is to be taking care of ourselves. I'm going to go back to something that's said over and over again, but I think it's worth saying. The global pandemic is very traumatic, as well as other current news events. And we're navigating a lot of uncertainty. Our lives have really drastically changed, and many of us have had to make very major adjustments, and that's stressful. Change itself is stressful. Changing habits to develop even better, stronger habits is still stressful. But change, even though hard and challenging at this time with good changes, can be a good thing. So now is a good time to develop healthy habits if you haven't already, and also instill a much better, if you haven't already, of course, better, healthier lifestyle. Start small. I've known people who've started with huge goals, but start small because small changes make a difference. You can definitely use the Kaizen approach, a little bit at a time. In my case, I block out time for self-care, and I work on setting reasonable expectations. At least I try. I see this as, here's some ideas. You could take deep breaths. It's really important. Go out in nature. Call a friend. It's okay if you decide you want to stop reading the news for a little bit and get off social media for a while. Because I work with clients on planning their social media content and presence, and sometimes even implement those, I do have to be aware and active on social media. But what I do is I schedule the time to be on social media. I have specific goals to be there, and I set time boundaries, and I also don't get sucked into, or work hard anyway, not to get sucked into all the other things that I see in the social media realm, which is where you can waste a lot of time and energy. As a consultant and entrepreneur, I set hours, and I close my office door when the day is done so I can concentrate on other things. Now, my mind never stops working, and when I'm talking about a client, it's always got something going on there, so that's really difficult. So what I've done is put in place, I have a notebook and a pencil or pen, and I write down, jot things I need to do. Maybe it's an idea for a client. Maybe it's things I need to follow up on. Whatever comes to mind while I'm not in my office sitting at my computer, I jot those down so I can forget them for the moment and come back to them in the morning and work on them. I don't use note applications. I have an iPad and an iPhone and I've a laptop, but I don't use those because in doing that, I get sucked into other things. So I really want to just put the note down and go on to something else. It's called an incubation time too. This is the time you put the ideas in and you kind of let them sit so they have time to percolate and come up into something, and you can work on it later. Step 2 is communication. And this is a big one. And that's with employees, family, and friends and colleagues. So as a company leader, I find this is a real opportunity to show leadership, demonstrating really true empathy and not just talking about it. So checking in with your network and being very flexible about meeting them where they're at. I've been on meetings or telephone calls with people. I hear a dog barking in the background. They're saying, I've got my child here. I have to take care of them. That is all understandable in this particular time frame. It's not considered unprofessional. It's just considered we're all living in this time frame. And it's something to use empathy for, to realize that we're not all in an office and secured by our walls. We have other things going on in our homes, which is where many people are now remote working. If your business is struggling financially, You need to really be open with your employees. They really do need to know. They're going to know anyway, but at this time in this unique situation, you really want to be, you really always want to be pretty clear with your employees, because that gives you an authentic voice, and people believe you and trust you. If you have a contingency plan, share that with your employees. If you don't, it's a good time to realize that, it would really be helpful to have a contingency plan in place. We used to call them disaster recovery plans, but they're things. Now, I don't see where you could have predicted a global pandemic and COVID-19. However, there are things you could have in a contingency plan that help you anytime you have a crisis or disruption. Ask your employees, instill their help to start the discussion of, creative ways that they see to connect with customers or cut costs or identify new revenue streams. You'd be surprised. They probably got lots of ideas. And even if the idea comes out and it's not the right one to begin with, or you think we can't be instilling that, let the idea percolate and see what happens. If you're able to retain employees, and I really, really hope you are, then really provide them with a secure environment with communications, letting them know what's happening. And if there is any kind of downturn, again, let them know that also. Because your real strength comes with the people that work with you anyway. Right now, there are numerous loan options. You probably already know that. There's some grant options. We're kind of getting to the end of some of that. And, I personally, I take very good care to look at the caveats and restrictions on them. I talk to my bank and organizations who can provide me help. And I try to get different sources with that information, because then I can put my own thoughts together by collecting what others are probably giving me, plus what's best for our company and me, myself. If you ultimately do have to lay people off, and I really hope you don't, just be as forthcoming and kind as you can, because if you can offer a severance package, great. I know clients right now who cannot. They could not do that. If you can help with resources or any kind of applications or firms or information, that will really help make that transition a little bit easier. It's not easy to be laid off, and it's not easy to lay off people, but you want to really be kind in how you're doing that at any time, not just now, but any time. Show empathy for your customers and find opportunities for service. You want to be able to service them in the time of need and benefit them in this time of need. You always want to do that, but this is another reminder. When talking to customers, it's best to be very authentic and honest. You want to acknowledge what is happening and be sure your marketing messages are also acknowledging your challenges and the things that you're doing and how you're helping and servicing your clients. This really isn't business as usual, so it's important to meet people where they are, and also more than just, again, as words, it's really genuine. As leaders, it's important we take steps to ensure that our doors stay open, which means we need to be continuing to offer our products and services and being very sensitive to the challenges our customers are navigating. And it's also a great way to get input from your customers if you haven't done that, which is a good thing to do, but to listen carefully to your customers about what and which of your services and products are benefiting your customers. On the supply chain level, be sure to check supply chains and add suppliers, just in case your suppliers experience their own difficulties and you're caught off guard. This is just a general good business practice anyway. Having multiple suppliers so your supply chain disruptions are kept at a minimum or are handled seamlessly, so your customer doesn't even know that that's happening. And, it should go without saying, but I guess it kind of has to be said, being considerate. It really deepens the trust and the loyalty your customers will have towards your organization now and in the future. And if you have opportunities or resources to give back, I would strongly suggest that would be a good thing to do. Look at it a way now for people to feel good about your organization, and also to have your employees rally for the cause. And last but not least, really help your customers and see you as a humane company, and experience a connection that they might not